Good morning. Campbell McCrary here. I'm a Vice President of Capital Markets here at Amvest Capital in New York City. Welcome to the Amvest Capital Inc. live webinar with Gold Bull Resources. Gold Bull trades on the venture as GBRC and as BLSSF on the OTC. We do hope you'll enjoy today's program. It will also be available in replay mode. Feel free to chat in your questions in the question pane of GoToWebinar or simply email them in and we'll ask them in real time. The copy of this replay will be available in about an hour and you can easily get it at amvestcapital.com/webinars. Amvest is a New York-based specialist investment management and corporate finance firm focused solely on the natural resource sector. This call is most certainly for informational purposes only. We have with us today Cherie Leedon, making you a presenter. If you want to turn on your webcam, she's the president, CEO, and director of Gold Bull, and a geologist by background. She is a proven resource executive, more than 2 decades of experience, including 10 years at public company board level. She has led businesses in senior positions at publicly traded companies, as well as developed and built several successful resource-focused startups. She has held major leadership positions with Battery Minerals, Rio Tinto, Lionor, and Strike Resources. Again, please send in your questions and we'll get to them in real time. And then at the end of this event, we'll be queuing you for feedback. Please share some feedback. It'll make its way to Cherie very soon after. So thank you and welcome, Cherie.
Thank you very much, Campbell. Can you see my presentation just fine as it is?
Looking good. I'll let you know if things go awry. All you.
So welcome to Gold Bull. Our mission is to grow into a mid-tier US-focused resource company. I'm based in Nevada, and so are most of our team, and we're very much hands-on on the ground, and we're in the know locally where the projects are and where the action is, and that was part of the reason why our listing asset ended up being the Sandman Project as our core focus. So Sandman really underpins our current valuation. It boasts a resource of almost 500,000 ounces, so at current valuation of 35 million Canadian and 500,000 ounces in the ground. I think there's a lot of room to grow. We're very much focused on mining-friendly jurisdictions in the US, and we've got a great team to take us forward, which I'll go into. These are a snapshot of our values, and our company is very much driven by these core values, both at the board level, our executive management level, and also our team. And it's certainly something that drives our company and perhaps something that differentiates us from a few other juniors. Since this was created a couple of weeks ago, our share price has had a nice run. We're currently over 50 cents on the back of our announcements regarding the drill results that we released on Monday morning, which I'll go into. So currently just over 50 cents and back to where we raised the capital late last year. So Craig Parry is our chairman, and Craig and I go back almost 20 years. Dave Johnson and I also go back almost 20 years. So new company, however, not new to working together, and really enjoy working with both Craig and David. We're a technical group, we're ex-Rio Tinto, and we like to think that we are looking for world-class deposits without the bureaucracy of working for a major. Craig has really done well lately. He's been involved in a string of successes, and it's just a pleasure to work with Craig as our chairman. And we're supported by a fantastic executive leadership team. Regina Malloy is our exploration manager, Lindsay Craig's our chief geologist, and we also have a wealth of advisors that we call on. Walter Cole obviously doing very well at Skeena Resources with a Barrick non-core asset in Eskay Creek. Further bolstered by these great people, I like to think one of our strengths are actually our advisors. We've got a wealth of advisors such as Keith Peck, who's advising myself on the merger and acquisitions and M&A kind of activity that we're looking at and considering. Debbie Strusacker is advising us on the environmental permitting aspects. We have Randy Vance advising us on Sandman, and now Keith Wood advising us on our project pipeline of assets. So the Sandman property, this is really why Gold Bull became Gold Bull. It was an opportunity that I found from Newmont. Newmont decided that they were going to divest some non-core assets. 500,000 ounces is not of interest of a company of Newmont size, but it was certainly a fantastic start for us to seize this asset. When we acquired the project, the resource base was about 310,000 ounces, and that's grown based on that additional data and drilling that Newmont did. Newmont drilled over 200 diamond core holes. They drilled about 100 RC holes. So we used all that additional drilling that was predominantly focused around the known historical resources, which has grown the resource by 60% to now that 494,000 ounce number. And the breakdown of that resource can be found in this appendix. So we're super excited, since the last capital raise, not only has the resource increased, but we've also commenced a drill program, and the goal of that drill program is going to be twofold: to extend the known resources, to increase their resource confidence in some places, and also to discover potentially new projects or prospects that aren't yet drilled. So you can see our resource at the moment is split between these 4 deposits. The red polygons on this image illustrate our current resource base, which forms that 494,000 ounces. The dots on the map are our current drill holes, and that drill program is underway. So we have a 3,000 meter RC drill program. We're about 2/3 of the way into that program. We've got assay results that are starting to churn through. We've already received the first one, which we announced last Monday, which is the Stellar Able Null hole, and the next batch of holes will be coming from the North Hill prospect, and they're due any day now. And another real plus for why acquire Sandman was that the project has about $20 million worth of data. So our team, we've been looking at this data for over 6 months now, and we still haven't got through it all. It's just an immense database that we're going through and ranking and prioritizing targets and drill holes and geophysics. So that's a real plus for us, because it means that a lot of the baseline work, the geochem work, and a lot of the baseline geophysics has already been done. I was on site a couple of days ago. Right now, the hole is in between the drill rig is between Silica Ridge and Southeast Pediment. We're drilling hole 11, and it's just baffling to me that there's never been a hole where our hole 11 is. It's a geophysical target, and looking at the rocks coming out of the ground, super altered, which is what you want to see. They've had hydrothermal fluids flow through them, and whether there's gold or not, we'll wait for the assay results. But just kind of surprising that you're in this really fertile system. You've got little gold resources all over the place, and then you still have some big sections where there's never been a drill hole. So this is our maiden drill hole, and it's probably the reason why our share price has gone north of 50 cents again. We were testing a historical hole that ended in 9.6 grams a ton. So this hole is a historical hole that ended, the last meter was 9.6 grams a ton. So it just begged the question, how deep does that 9.6 gram a ton intersection go? How wide is it? So we put in this hole, SA0001, and it intersected that same high grade mineralized zone over a 6 meter width, and it graded at almost 11 grams a ton. So 6.1 meters for 10.7 grams a ton gold, which is just spectacular kind of grades and width. And that is located in a broader halo of really decent gold mineralization. I mean, 144 meters at 1.67 grams a ton, and almost 100 meters at over 2 grams a ton contained within that same mineralized halo, which is a breccia body. So we're ecstatic about that. It's obviously had a great reaction to the market, because those kind of grades are pretty rare, let alone from quite shallow depths. It's not too far from the surface, and the result is that this hole has increased where our known resource Able Null has been plotted. Also significantly, much of this resource was modeled. The image to the right is our actual resource model, and much of that resource was modeled conservatively to be sulfide. So sulfide is essentially the fresh ore, which is processed differently to the weathered oxide ore. And that hole identified that all of that mineralization is oxidized. So I think our able null oxide sulfide numbers might change a little as well in the next resource update. That hole is open at depth. That breccia pipe keeps on going, and for how long we don't know. So right now the geological team is planning a diamond hole to intersect it at depth down here. We really want to know how deep this mineralization goes through. It appears that we've got this circa 10 gram a ton core to this breccia pipe, and it's just going to take more drilling to really determine how deep that goes, because at those kind of numbers you really don't need a lot of strike extent to quickly add the ounces. So it's something that we're already planning to do, and diamond core is just going to give us so much more information about the project, both in terms of structure and also in terms of metallurgy. So able null, it's one to watch. And although I'm super ecstatic about this intersection, I still think we've got a lot more exciting results coming from the other projects. I don't have a favorite. I think the other projects have the potential to be just as spectacular, and I'm really looking forward to the assay results. So this is a snapshot of our current resource. You can see that the majority of the resource is in the indicated category, and we've got very little in the inferred category. That's based on almost 1,000 drill holes that were used for our resource estimate. So that these current known resources are known very well, because thanks to all that historical information. So we know the top 100 meters, impeccably. And now the real resource extension is going to, in most cases, be to the west, where many of them remain open and at depth. So there lies the opportunity in the known resources. And again, what we're most excited about is the opportunity between the resources that hasn't really had a lot of focus because of unconsolidated sand cover, which obscures a lot of the geology at Sandman. So this is a snapshot of where we see Gold Bull and where we're spending our money in 2021. Our focus is on Sandman. It is our core asset. It's where we believe we can add ounces with the lowest risk, essentially. We're currently drilling, and we've got an 8,000 meter drill program planned. However, we've staged that in 2 phases. So we're 2/3 of the way through the 3,000 meter phase 1 program. And then the idea was always to wait for those assay results to come in for the first phase. Then we can recollect and reprioritize, and then we can go back and decide if we put the phase 2 5,000 meters in the right places, because you just need some bonanza intersections such as the one at Able Knoll, and you can quickly change priorities, and the holes may get moved around a bit in phase 2. But again, it's too early for us to say that, because we just have so many more batches of assay results that are still expected to come in over the coming months. New opportunities forms our second focus after Sandman. It's where I'm spending most of my time. We're looking at a number of existing resource projects for potential acquisition or joint venture, where we're looking for majority of those assets. And they're predominantly located in Nevada. Most of them have had very little work, in many instances since the 80s or 90s, and they're just sitting there, unappreciated and unmarketed. And in most instances, they've stopped work in the early 90s when the gold price dropped to the low 300s, and now the current gold price of over 1,700. We're really happy with these current prices. So it really makes a lot of projects and resources that were discovered 30 years ago, 40 years ago, now look very interesting economic opportunities. So it's a space to watch that we're certainly eager and active to grow our current resource portfolio. Then we've got our project pipeline, 2 projects. Big Bull's located in eastern Nevada, next to Bald Mountain Mine, about 10 kilometers to the west of that, on the Carlin Trend. It's on the Vida Trend, another undercover geophysical play. And we've also got Coyote in western Utah. And those projects where we've just completed geophysics at both projects. Big Balls, we did magnetics. At Coyote, we did ground IP. And that's to get us a decision, are these worth drilling, or are they not world-class targets? And the geological team will be making that decision in the coming weeks to determine the next steps there. They're either going to be drilled or they'll be flicked. So I think Big Balls is looking super exciting from the preliminary data. And at Coyote, the question is, we've got high-grade mineralization at the surface, but is that a skinny mineralized fracture, or is that the potential to be something world-class? We're not interested in drilling for the sake of defining a few 100,000 ounces. We're looking for multiple million-ounce deposits. So it's a quick snapshot of Gold Bull, what we're busy with. We're really excited by the news flow that we've got coming in the form of the assay results at Sandman. We're super keen to to get going at that project. The first day one that we had our transfers from Newmont to Gold Bull's name, we literally hit the ground running, and the same day we were dozing in our tracks, and the next day we had a rig on site. So we're very eager to drill Sandman, and we're super excited by both the resource extension potential of the known resources, but probably more so by that exploration potential, which is largely being driven by geophysics. And on that note, our VP of exploration is a geophysicist. David Johnson's a wonderful geophysicist, and we do believe that geophysics is going to play an ever important and increasing role in new discoveries in this wonderful state of Nevada. So that's a quick snapshot in the appendix of this presentation. We've got a detailed breakdown of our Sandman resource, which splits the resource into the 4 projects, including oxide and sulfide. And we've also got a snapshot of Coyote and Big Boards, which are our project pipeline assets, high risk, high reward kind of plays, where we're looking for those elephant deposits, those multi-million ounce deposits undercover. And it's just a little too early for me to comment on those ones because we're still interpreting the geophysical results just received. Are you there, Campbell?
I am. Yeah. Let's jump into some of the questions. Could you dive in a little bit about ownership by executives and directors, and just percentage of ownership, and then some of your larger shareholders?
Sure, that would be approximately 20 to 25% by the board and the executives, and for the most part, where that's been purchased during the last 2 capital raises, and Craig and myself participated in the last capital raise that was done at 50 cents, as did a number of the other board members and executives. So that's insider ownership, and we're all incentivized by options as well. All of our team, ranging from our field assistants to our managers, are all provided employee options and warrants. So everyone has skin in the game and incentive to make this work. And all those options, I think the average price is at around 50 cents. Our major shareholder is Laxa out of New York, a really wonderful cornerstone investor. We also have a number of instos that came in our last capital raising in Australia and out of the UK. And Canaccord did our last capital raising along with Tectonic, and Bacchus Capital out of London. So it's our shareholders are spread all across the globe, and we're very grateful to have resource funds already in our story. And that was, when we had a 310,000 ounce resource, so they're backing us to find more ounces. They're also backing us to make additional acquisitions for resource projects where we can get a good deal. And essentially, if we can acquire it cheaper, then we can explore for it, then that represents a good deal to us.
Gold Bull issued a news release on your updated resource on Feb 2. What do you expect the updated 43101? When do you think it will be filed on CDAR?
So that number won't change from what's in this presentation. That is the updated resource, and that will be filed, I believe, on Wednesday. We're just waiting for a CP sign off who's in the field. So on Wednesday, I think that should be announced on CDAR, and the numbers aren't going to change, but that's going to provide the public with a wealth of information regarding the technical aspects of this project. And it's a really well-written report by Stephen Olson, and I think the general public will be able to see some of the immediate upside when they look at the sections and see, which resources are open in several directions.
What would it take for your resource to pass the 1 million, 1.3 million ounce mark? I guess you can answer that any number of ways, but
We're working on it.
How much time?
You know, it all depends, you know, how fast you spend the money, because we can have 4 drill rigs going and be going 4 times as fast as we're having 1 drill rig churning, and take, you know, 4 times as long compared to the 4 rigs. We can do double shift, single shift. So it's kind of a hard question to answer. We do see million-ounce potential at this project, which is why, you know, we acquired it. And I think that potential is likely to come from a combination of expanding the known 4 resources plus discovering new mineralization, and that's what we're aiming to do. That's we recently conducted an IP geophysical survey that was spanned between North Hill and Silica Ridge. And why I really like the North Hill Silica Ridge area is it's 100% oxide material, and you know, when it comes to extraction and processing, oxide is just so much cheaper, and the capital required is so much cheaper than looking at sulfide plays. So that's an area that we're going to focus on for sure. And we've defined a number of geophysical targets in this area that we have not drilled in this phase 1 project. We'll drill that in phase 2, just because drilling was already underway and we're already permitted when we got that geophysical data. So I'm super excited about adding ounces in that particular vicinity. But certainly we're striving to that target of the 1 million ounces.
Any existing net smelter royalties on Sandman, or any other carryovers of other groups and landholders?
There are a number of royalties, and they average a couple of percent, and they vary from 0.5% to a couple of percent, and that will be best described in the 43-101, because why I'm vague about it is this landholding used to be consolidated by, you know, probably a dozen different owners, and over the years different companies have basically consolidated to make this a contiguous land holding. So like the royalty for Able Knoll is different to Silica Ridge, and different in Southeast Pediment, North Hill, for example. So in our 43-101, the author's done an excellent job of depicting where the royalties are with polygons, and then there's a table that says how much they are for each one. So just in general, a couple of percent royalty is, you know, a fair assumption. And there are no clawbacks. We own this project 100%. And yeah, that's pretty simple deal structure from Newmont. There's none of those nasty, if you find 5 million ounces, we want it back.
Does the current plan of operation cover the entire land package?
It does, and that was a real selling point for us. It was a big reason why we wanted this project. Newmont just did such high quality work for their environmental baseline work. We've got a cultural study that covers the entire area. We've got eagle surveys, we've got plant, biological, flora, fauna studies. And for a junior, that's just really an expensive exercise, typically, because juniors you're so hand to mouth, you do small little project areas. We've got this whole polygon on this map is covered under that plan of operation. So we can essentially decide to drill anywhere within that area, and it's already been assessed environmentally, and it's already covered under our plan of operation. So it's a real windfall for us, and the BLM have been a pleasure to work with. They were cognizant that we were eager to hit the ground running, and they were just so great to give us the all clear with our proposed drill holes that we submitted probably about a month ago.
All right, Gabe.
Hi, thanks. Sherry, can you give us a bit of understanding in terms of like the oxidation profile changes? At what depth do they occur? Across, I guess there's several deposits here that make up the resource, but can you give us a bit of color on that?
Yeah, they're all different, so I can't really just answer, you know, at 100 meters. It transitions from sulfide to oxide, because, for example, at North Hill and Silica Ridge, we're currently all in oxide, and you know, we've got holes down till about 150 meters or so. So there's 250,000 ounces of gold ballpark at these 2 areas up here that are 100% oxide. And again, that's why I really like the area. If that represents that we've got a lower depth of weathering, for example, in the north, then I think that's a real incentive for us to explore more in the north and the south. In Able Knoll, we have different rock types, and the different lithologies appear to have different oxidization. So that stellar intersection in hole 1 that we announced, for example, all that mineralization, that breccia, appears oxidized. However, if we go to an adjacent lithology, then that volcanic lithology appears to be a mixture of oxide and sulfide. So from about, I think, 60 meters ballpark. Again, the 43101 goes into that in detail. So Able Knoll, Able Knoll itself, you've got 200 meters of oxidization in the breccia, and then in the neighboring rock unit, you've got a very different sulfidization oxidization boundary. Southeast Pediment is also a mixture of oxide and sulfide. So if I was to generalize, I'd say that the oxidization gets deeper as we go north, but that's a pretty broad generalization because each of the deposits are quite different.
Sure. And then in terms of the resource estimate increase, was it sort of new deposits that you found, or did you go deeper in certain areas?
So that was predominantly the additional drill holes that Newmont drilled. So Newmont twinned, I should say, they drilled closely to the known resources, the known historical resources, and they improved the QA/QC by doing diamond core. So you get a lot more information out of diamond core versus RC, which was predominantly done in the past. And by virtue of that diamond drilling around the known resources, in many instances, they somewhat accidentally increase the resources by going out and stepping out to create presumably pit plans around these small surface deposits, especially at North Hill Silica Ridge and Southeast Pediment. So I'd say it's just an incremental step out, and also the fact that we've incorporated probably more than 300 drill holes since the previous resource estimate.
Great. And in terms of how many rigs you have turning and staff on site, what does that look like today?
So we've got one rig. We're using New Frontier for our drillers. They've done a great job for us over the past 12 months on and off in my various capacities, and they've got an RC rig churning. All their drill crew live in Winnemucca, so this is like a lifestyle project for them. They drive 45 minutes and they're in their own bed every night. Both the driller and the two offsiders live in Winnemucca. Our company has an apartment or a couple of units in Winnemucca, and there we've got based our chief geologist, Lindsay Craig, our project geologist, Stephanie Grokey, and our field manager, Seth Saunders.
Great. And do you think, just one last question before I pass this to, the work that's going now, once you complete that, do you think you'll have enough data to do a resource update, or kind of what's your plans around development of your resource?
I would certainly like to be continually basically adding these data to our resource. A significant resource increase won't happen immediately. That will probably happen after we've had a chance this year to add ounces. The plan was always to use this year to add ounces. So by the end of this year, during the winter months, that's when we'd probably look to do a new model and revised update. I think there's a lot of drilling that we need to do before we come out with a new resource. There's this program's 3,000 meters, so I'd at least want to do phase 2 to really see what hits we get. In particular, those exploration holes are just very interesting to us, so we're really eager to try and find a new mineralized corridor. My hope is that when we next catch up, I'm talking about 5 prospects instead of 4 prospects, because we're really trying to find one in between of these known resources.
Great, thank you. Stu?
Yeah, thanks, Sheree. So yeah, that nice big intersection, the 144.8 meters, is that kind of typical in the area, or is it a bit of a surprise? That type of size of halo effect?
Yeah, this is phenomenal kind of numbers. It's not, I wouldn't say it's typical, and the Able Knoll is a little unique because we're looking at this diatreme breccia body versus volcanic hosted. The other projects tend to be more volcanic hosted on a contact. So this is like coming out of like an explosion, kind of like how a diamond pipe would be created. And it's obviously brought some goodies with it. And it's going to be really interesting to see what that does at depth. Does it narrow? And when it narrows, does it get higher grade? I'd be speculating. So it's certainly not normal grades. I mean, some of these numbers are just extraordinary. It's like one of the best holes that I've been involved with during my career. So we're certainly looking forward to putting some more diamond holes in. and really getting a context of how deep this mineralization goes, because in our resource estimate, we did pit constrained resources and we just, presumed open pit scenarios. But when you have these kind of grades, if they do indeed continue, then you can start looking at underground mines tailing off the surface open pits potentially. Yeah. So we're not there yet. So again, I would just reiterate, this year for us is about adding ounces. We're not going to jump into feasibility study mode yet. We really need to add the ounces to determine what a feasibility would look like. And there's no point doing a feasibility study now when we think there is a chance to add more ounces.
Yep. And will you just, based on that intersection, will you adjust your drill program to like bring the rig back to this area sooner than you planned?
We always had 2 more holes planned at this project. So like that, this is what was permitted. So that one hole, the white one, was the one that was drilled, and these 2 holes are drilled to explore a geophysical target that's along the same structure that's never been drilled. So we're going to be putting those 2 holes in. They'll probably be the last holes. Just logistically, as the rig went in, it just did that hole because it was just a no-brainer that I wanted to see where that 9.6 grams a ton went. Then it went to North Hill, and now it's making its way south, and it'll do these 2 on the way out. So we certainly will be proceeding with those 2. And I think, judging by those numbers, the project warrants a lot more holes than just these 3 that we have planned. And I think they're probably going to be diamond drill holes instead of RC holes, so we can get more details and more context. But as I mentioned before, I mean, we don't know if we're going to have able hole numbers at other projects. So until we get the assay results back for all 4 deposits, then we can rank and prioritize that second 5,000 meters.
Does the backlog in assays impact, or how are you handling the backlog in assays and how it might impact moving around without
we changed laboratories, and now we're getting our assays back within 3 weeks. So we're super happy with our new laboratory, and 2 to 3 week turnaround time is a lot better than the 2 to 3 months that we were putting out with the last lab. So we don't have a problem with assays anymore.
Yeah, that's good. And once someone mentioned about upgrading the US listing, so perhaps that's something I can help as well. But yeah, it is. You guys are in the process of upgrading it to the QB, and so that should be completed imminently.
Yeah, I think that's really going to help our US punters play in the stock. We're getting lots of favourable feedback, and Stuart, you've been a big proponent of us doing that. So we're hoping our code will be GBRC F very shortly on the QB, and we'll announce to the market when that move has been made. And I do think that we really want to get this story out to more American investors. We are based in America, and we're very much focused on the USA. We think it's a great place to be doing business, and commodities are going to form an ever increasing important chain, I think, in the government's objectives to get away from China. And I do think that this state is really blessed in a number of commodities, not just gold, but also the battery materials such as lithium. So I see Nevada as being a mining powerhouse for quite a time to come.
Yep, most definitely. And then one last question from me, just what work's been done on the metallurgy in this area at the prospects, if any?
Yeah, we've had quite a lot of metallurgical test work done, again, courtesy of Newmont. So they've done a number of bulk samples, in particularly from the top 3. So these 3 deposits, North Hill, Silica Ridge, and Southeast Pediment, they all stick out the ground. They're all outcropping deposits. So it was pretty easy for them to excavate some bulk samples, and then they processed it at their nearby mine site, Twin Creek Turquoise Ridge facility. So we've got some great met work and real data from massive samples. Again, that would be very cost prohibitive for a junior to do. And those recoveries, those actual recoveries, have been used in our 43-101 report. And again, when that's announced on CEDAR early next week, all that data and that information on metallurgy will become available. We have less information about Able Knolls metallurgy, and that's predominantly because it's not sticking out of the ground. So that's another incentive for us to do a few diamond cores, diamond drill holes, and really intersect that high-grade mineralization to work out what its metallurgical attributes are, and how easy or hard extraction of that gold is going to be.
Yeah, thanks for that, Campbell.
Sure. Just gonna wrap up here with some of the questions sent in, and we'll close. What treatment processes do your neighbors implement, assuming similar geological, metallurgical characteristics? What gold recovery range is expected? So, I guess what are kind of the operational comps that you're looking to form your thesis?
Yeah. So for heap leach projects, specifically talking about the oxide portion, grades of 0.5 to 1 gram a ton, I'd be hoping for about an 80 to 85% recovery of that gold. So I think that's quite standard and indicative of what Nevadan heap leach projects aim to achieve for oxide material. You can run into issues with clay species and the like, but we're not seeing any like obvious issues there, and there has been all that metallurgical work done already on those northern three. So I'm presuming this is just going to be like your stock standard Nevadan recovery. There's always going to be some tweaking metallurgically for each deposit. And on that note, we'll be sure to engage the best metallurgists. There's a wealth of information and a wealth of experts locally. I mean, there's just world-class experts based in Reno, which is only a couple of hours drive from this particular project. So metallurgically, I think this should be no different than your average, circa 80-85% recovery for the heap leach oxide.
Excellent. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and for your great questions. And we'll be queuing you for feedback. Please share a few lines. It will be much appreciated by everyone. Sheree, I'm going to give this back to you to close. I always ask, why buy the stock now? So maybe circle back with what we might expect in the next 12, 18 months as you drill away.
Yeah, I'd say get in quick. I mean, last week we're at 40 cents. Today we're at 50 cents on the back of that one announcement. And that's the first batch of assay results that we've got coming out of the lab. And there's going to be a lot more assay results from the other prospects that we're drilling, the next round at North Hill, then at Silica Ridge, for example. So these are really interesting deposits. These are known resources, and we're targeting some pretty low risk holes here, such as the Able Knoll hole, which we announced to the market before we drilled it. It's targeting 9.6 gram a ton end of hole kind of project. So it's pretty rare in exploration that you can go to these projects and test mineralization that's been left behind just to work out what the dimensions of that are. So lots of news flow coming. We'll be announcing our assay results as in batches because we're sending them to the laboratory batches. So as we receive them, we're going to keep our shareholders and our investors fully informed. So that's on Sandman. And then on the new opportunity front, just know that we're actively pursuing a number of projects under CA for half a dozen, and no guarantee, but that's certainly our objective, is to do another acquisition.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.